What's going on? This is Fanatics, and in this haircut tutorial I'll be showing you how I do a Mohawk style, fading the sides and also lining up the back into a V shape. So to start off this haircut, I'll be spraying his hair down with some water and then running the comb through to make sure that every bit of his hair is wet. And then I will part his hair down the middle, creating the guideline as you see here, cutting down all the way to the front of his head. And this guideline will help me with cutting the length that my client has asked throughout the rest of his hair. Now once I'm finished with creating my guideline, I'll be sectioning the hair into two, and I'll choose either or side to work or to start off. And as I work from the back, I'll work back to front, however you want to start. And as you see, I'm picking up section per section, small sections, and I'm cutting towards the guideline that I have created, so that way I know that the hair is all even, or will be even all the way around. So now I'll be working off to the left side now, doing the same thing. I'll start from the back, working my way all the way to the front of his hair, taking my time. Now after I'm done completely cutting his hair, I'll spray it, or I like to spray it down with a little bit of spray, sea salt spray, and then pass the blower through and just lay everything down nicely until it dries. I like to do this because it helps me, or allows everything to kind of dry, and for it's just something I prefer to do. You don't have to do this, but I prefer to do it. I like the way that it comes out. I like the way that it dries, and I like the way that the clipper cuts the hair when everything lays down the way that I want it to lay down. And so by passing the blower and brushing his hair, I'm brushing it in the direction that it grows. And then now I will start my haircut. So I will start with the number 2 guard. The lever will be all the way down, meaning the lever is all the way open, just to clear out my section. So after I finish clearing out my section, I like to go over the bulk line that was left behind with the number 2 guard. And I like to clipper over comb this section, just to kind of give me a more neater and cleaner look. Now it's not gonna completely blend it nicely into the hairs up top. It'll just help to clean it up a little bit better, and then later on I'll pass it through with a shearable comb. Now to start off my blend, I like to first start with my indicator line. This line allows me to understand whether it's a low, mid, or a high fade. And by using my clipper, the clipper will be closed, no guard, lever all the way up. Now I'll be following this up with the trimmers just to clean up all the sections underneath that. Get it nice and clean. Now after using the trimmers, I'll be following it up with the foil shavers to get me closest to the skin. Now by using the foil shaver, it allows the haircut to look even cleaner opposed to leaving all the stubbles from the trimmers. And now I'll begin setting in my guidelines. So here I'll be going in with the lever all the way open, meaning the lever's all the way down or to the last notch with no guard, creating my first guideline. So here you can use a finger's width, or I like to go a little bit wider when it comes down to that first guideline, because it allows me to transition the blend a little bit better opposed to making the lines or the guidelines a little bit thin. Now I'll be following that up with a number 1 guard, lever still all the way open, creating my next guideline. Now I like to set my guidelines using half the blade, so kind of using the corner of the blade, but as I'm putting in or setting in these guidelines, I'm also in a way kind of blending at the same time, using a little bit of that flick motion. Now you don't see too much of that flicking motion, and you don't want to over exaggerate the flicking motion either. But as I'm setting in these guidelines, it's also, as you can see, blending itself in as well. And by doing this, it creates that blend, and it makes it a lot easier to go back and when you start to take away the lines or when you start to blend. Now I'll follow that up with a 1.5 guard, lever still all the way open, creating my next guideline. But also creating this guideline, I'm also blending in with the number 2 guard. So as I'm blending in with the number 2 guard, I'm also making sure that I'm flicking out, going through the number 2 and pulling out. So that way I can create a nice smooth transition into that number 2 guard. And I like to set in my guidelines using half the blade, not the full blade, working that corner of that blade. And just using light flicking motions, really light flicking motions. You don't want to over exaggerate it. Light flicking motions. You can see right here how the blend is already coming in, and I haven't even taken out the lines yet. And also the direction of my client's hair. Also, you want to make sure that you're watching the client's hair in the direction that it grows. His particular hair on his sides, closer to his arches or his C cups, they grow at an angle. They don't go straight down. So sometimes I have to go in at an angle, so that way I'll prevent from taking chunks out if I go straight into it, opposed to if I go straight up into it, chances are I'll be creating patches in his hair. So I have to go at an angle, the direction that is growing, so that way I can create a nice blend, if you understand what I mean. Now here I got the half guard, and the lever will be right in the middle, and I'll be going right in that middle line as I showed you, or as I pointed out. Now with the half guard, as I say in my other videos, with the half guard, this will just help to soften up the middle of this line. It's not going to completely remove this line. And once I'm done with the lever halfway, I will keep the same half guard or the 0.5 guard, and I will close it all the way, and I will go through that line one more time to help it soften it even more. Sometimes it will remove that line, sometimes it will not. And now I have the lever still in the middle with no guard, and I'll be working the rest of that middle line out. Now you notice that I'm tilting the clipper to its side using just the very corner. And by using the very corner, you're only going to be using maybe 1 or 2 teeths of the side of that blade. And I'm going through to completely remove that line. Now I have closed it, and by closing the lever, it allows you to go up even higher just to get any dark spots. As you see, I'm going really high with no guard, but I have the clipper tilted to its side because I'm not using the full blade completely. Now if I was to go up that high using that blade with no guard, remember that it's the hair, the higher you go, the longer the hair is. And as you go in and you lay that clipper down with no guard, you're going to remove a lot of that hair off and leave patches. And so By tilting your clipper to its side, it allows you to just use maybe 1 or 2 teeth of the corner of that blade, which allows you to flick out any dark spots. And now I'll be closing the lever all the way completely, meaning the lever's all the way up, to remove that very bottom line. Now sometimes that line does not completely remove, but I will follow that up with the trimmers to completely remove that line, and then I'll go and just kind of do a little bit of touch-ups with the clipper. Lever playing, closing and opening, closing and opening. Once I'm finished with the blend, I'll go straight into the lineup. So here I was starting off with the vertical bar on the side of his head, the vertical bar, and then I will go straight into the arch or the C cup. So as I start my C cup, I like to start at the very top and start off with a small line. And I know everyone is different when it comes down to lining up their arches, but I like to work my way from the top all the way down, as you see here. Or sometimes I like to start off and use an indication line or indicator line by creating a line up at the very top and then starting from the bottom and working my way up, connecting the lines together. But as you see here, I just started from the top and then I envisioned or kind of created a line just using my eyes, envisioning a line and working my way all the way down. At times, if you create your line, you can kind of see the rest of the line as you create this line all the way down the lineup part. So, and I like to take my time. I like to give a few passes through with my liners to make sure that it's as sharp and as clean as possible. So once I'm finished with the arch or lining up the side of his hair, I like to start in the middle of his forehead and work my way to either side. So I chose to go to my right. So as I'm lining up, I like to roll the liners or the trimmers. I like to press lightly and then roll to my right. As you see here, slowly taking my time, being patient, little by little, working myself to give that nice sharp corner, a sharp line. I like to give out a few passes just to make sure that everything is cut. And with the amount of hair that my client has in the front, sometimes you want to pass the comb through just to make sure there's no any extra hangovers that are hanging over the line. You want to make sure that it's clean as possible. And now I'll be working in the back of his head now to create the lineup, the V that he wants in the back. So his hair's a little bit longer at the very bottom, so I'm using the clipper over comb technique just to clean up the very section of the bottom, just so it can look more cleaner. Sometimes you can create your line and you have hairs just kind of still sticking out and it's hanging over the lineup. So I like to blend out a little bit, not necessarily blend out, but kind of remove some of the excess hair, kind of trim it down a little bit, so that way that line can be as sharp as possible. So I like to start off at the middle, creating a point and working my way up, as you see here. Now sometimes you can use his ear as also in a indicator, or you can follow a certain point, whether it's the bottom of his earlobe or in the middle of his ear, to kind of finish off your lineup so you can match the other side as well. I like to give it a few passes to make sure that it's as clean as possible. And then I'll be following up the trimmer just to clean up any excess hair at the very bottom. And once I'm done doing this, I will follow that up with the shavers, the foil shavers. And this will give me the most cleanest, closest to the skin possible. Now that I'm finished with the blend and the lineup, I will now go over that bulk line with shear over comb technique. And this will allow me to blend the rest of the hair with the hairs up top, giving me a nice, clean, smooth transition. So as you can see, I'm taking my time, I'm being patient, and I'm making sure that the shears are cutting everything that I want to be cut. Be working my way all the way to the back of the head. Just making sure that it's as smooth as possible, and that the shears are cutting everything that I want to be cut. And then now it'll be the same steps as I did on the left side. I'll be using the number 2 guard lever all the way open just to clear out this side section. After I'm done using the number 2 guard and cleaning out this section, I'll now follow that up with clipper over comb, just to kind of smooth out that bulk line a little bit. And now I'll be going in with the clipper all the way closed, meaning the lever's all the way up, creating my indication line, indicating where my fade is going to start. Also helps me determine whether it's a low, mid, or a high fade on the side. Now I will start my guideline, going in with the lever all the way open, meaning the lever's all the way down. And I'll be following that up with the number 1 guard, lever still all the way open, or the lever all the way down, creating my next guideline. And now to follow up, I'll be using the 1.5 guard, lever all the way open still, creating my next guideline, also blending in into that number 2 guard. And now, to help me blend out or soften up that middle line, I'll be going in with the 0.5 guard or the half guard, lever in the middle or in the middle notch, just to help me soften up that middle line. And then to follow up, I will close that lever, meaning the lever's all the way up, to help soften up that middle line even more. And now I'll be going in with the clipper no guard lever in the middle to take out or remove the rest of that middle line. And then I'll proceed with closing the clipper to remove that very bottom line. And as I'm finished there, I'll be lever playing close to open, open to close, to make sure that the blend is as good as possible. Remember, a haircut is never perfect. And then I'll be following up with the arches, or lining up the arch, or the C cup as you call it. Again, I will start at the very top. And as I start at the very top, I like to vision the rest of the, or I like to see the rest of the lineup. And so I follow what I see in my mind, and this is what I get. And then following up with the vertical bar lineup, and then I'll start in the middle of his head. Remember, I already went and did the right side. Now I'll be working from the middle to my left, which will be his right. Now I like to be patient and take my time when it comes down to the lineup, just making sure that all the hairs are cut and that I'm creating the sharpest corner as possible. And now, once I'm finished with the lineup, I'll be leaning my client back for the razor. Now when doing the razor, you want to be extra careful because the razor is sharp, and if you don't create tension within the skin, meaning pulling down the skin the opposite direction, you are dragging the razor across his skin, towards that lineup, the razor will catch his skin if you don't create tension, possibly nicking or cutting the client. So as you see, I'm stretching the skin the opposite way of where I'm razoring towards his lineup. Being patient and taking my time. And by using your razor, you'll get the most cleanest lineups, the freshest lineups ever, opposed to just using the trimmer. As you can see, I'm stretching the skin, taking my time, all the way to that lineup. So I did use the pencil just to give it an extra pop. So by using the pencil, we'll create that ash line look, but it'll also create that nice, sharp, clean lineup look that we all look for. As I'm finished with the lineup, I'll clean them off and I'll lift my client up. You can see how clean everything looks. And now I'll be dusting them off, getting all that excess hair off of him. And this is Fanatics. I appreciate for whoever made it to the end of this video. This is my Mohawk style haircut. I hope you enjoy this video, and I will see y'all on the next one. And God bless everyone.